What mild injustice was done to you as a child that you are still mad about? I got in trouble for writing frick on the side of the house. I did not write frick on the side of the house. 20 years later and still no one believes me. Suckers. When I was 6 or 7, we were really broke. Single mom, 2 kids, living paycheck to paycheck, shuffling bills to buy food, no new clothes, toys, etc. It was a particularly bad week for us financially, and my mom was struggling to gather together some scraps for our lunches to bring to school. I never had the kind of sack lunches that the other kids wanted to trade for, but rarely did I get made fun of for it, until one day I brought a sandwich on 2 heels of bread, spread with the last of the butter and jam we had, and one of the lunchroom teachers said to my tiny precious 6-year-old self, "Geez, no radio 007, when does your mom get paid?" Haha, stuck with me ever since. Freaking B. What the absolute frick. My mom threw away my Atari 2600 because we got you that new Nintendo thing. Why do you still need the Atari? My mom sold my SNES and all my games including Earthbound and Chrono Trigger with complete case and manual for $50 after we got the N64. During English class, this was in Sweden. English isn't my first language. My teacher challenged us to come up with English words beginning with the letter Q and probably thought we wouldn't be able to. I said quest. My English wasn't great but I had just started playing Diddy's Kong Quest, and she didn't accept it as a word because she didn't think it existed. I still lie awake thinking of this moment of unfair humiliation. When I was a wee lad there was this indoor amusement park thing in my city that I just loved. In hindsight, it was probably pretty lame, but when I was bite-sized everything seemed massive and gnarly fun. Anyways, I love this place so much, I decide I want to have my birthday party there, so I invite my whole squad, and since it's summer and we're kiddos, everyone can come. Best day of my life. But it was not so. That day, on my birthday, they decided to tighten up their rules on height requirements for rides. Guess who magically became too short for literally every ride? Me. Guess who was the shortest kid in 1st grade? Me. Guess who had to watch all his friends ride all the rides while I stood to the side, being consoled by my dad? Me. Happy birthday me, I guess. The mental image of this is adorably awful. When I was 8 or 9 I was at the beach with my cousins, a group ranging from age 5 or 6 up to 10. My auntie was supposed to be watching us but went up the house for some reason, leaving the big kids in charge of the little ones. We weren't supposed to be getting wet, the sea had other plans. As remember it, a big freak wave came, way higher than the rest of them. It swept up past the high tide mark and kept coming. We ran but it caught us, all 7 kids, soaking wet. My auntie was furious and her anger was directed at me. Rather than be relieved that none of us drowned, she went into punish mode. Those in charge must pay, and that's where the unfair thing happened. I was not the oldest there but her son was. He was beyond reproach, obviously, so by default I was dubbed the ringleader, told I'd got everyone wet deliberately and sent straight to bed. I could hear the rest of them getting dry by running around outside, playing in the sun. But I had to lie in bed with the curtains pulled and think about what I'd done. I didn't. I seethed. 21 years later it still feels so unjust. When I was 5, my mom remarried and I got a stepbrother and stepsister. My stepbrother, 4 years older than me, and I both collected baseball cards. One day, he tells my mom that I'm not taking good enough care of my cards. I kept them loose in shoe boxes, and that my cards would all get dog-eared and lose value. I didn't care about value, I just liked the cards themselves. He tells her that he'd buy them from me and take better care. I didn't want him to buy them, but since my mom was still trying to get in good with my stepdad and his kids, she made me sell them to him for $30. I had around $300 worth of cards at that time. I never bought another baseball card, and still get mad about it if I think about it long enough. You should buy your stepbrother baseball cards for every holiday, except open the package and dog-ear all the cards before giving them to him. Back in grade school, I was playing Joseph in the church Christmas play. I improvised a joke and got a great laugh, but afterward, the director yelled at me to stick to the script. The next year, I wasn't in the play, but apparently she told everyone feel free to improvise. Just have fun with it. My older brother got in trouble for bad grades, so my parents enacted a month-long house-wide ban on TV, video games, renting movies, 80s kid, and comic books. My grades were fine. Mom, they're fine. Goddammit, the new G.I. Joe movie is on tomorrow. I was always punished along with my brother too. The reason was that my parents were too lazy to enforce it and I wasn't a raging, psychotic ape like my brother, so it was easier that way. I would go into my room and read, though I was seething with injustice inside. My teacher took 30 points off a test for using turquoise ink on a test. It was a blue pen. I freaking failed the test because of that. 2 mild injustices. One day, I sliced my forehead open when I was 6. I tripped next to my parents' bed and smacked my head on the wooden foot, the part that makes a sharp right angle that you can step on while climbing in. The cut went down to the bone, and there was blood running down my face. It hurt like a bee, so they took me to the ER, where I found out I needed to get sticks. "We'll put something on your forehead that will stop the pain," they said. "You won't feel a thing," they said. As it would turn out, I am resistant to several local anesthetics, probably including the one they used. Nobody believed me when I said I could still feel them touching the cut, so no matter how much I cried that they were hurting me, they wouldn't stop until I was all stitched up. While I was busy being repeatedly impaled by what I assumed were sadists, my dad tried to reassure me a different way. If I was a brave boy and let them continue, he'd take me to Toys R Us and let me buy whatever I wanted. I was 6. I couldn't pass this up, so I fought to sit still, and eventually it was done. But he never took me to Toys R Us like he promised he would, and I'm still mad about that. So yeah, freaking doctors who didn't listen to their patient and a hollow promise. That day sucked. That's horrendous. You should drive to Toys R Us now and buy yourself whatever toy you want. I used to play field hockey. I was about maybe 10 or so. Went to an all-girls Catholic private school. You know the sort. Anyway, I was on this team and one of my teammates and casual friend was called Katie. Katie's mum coached the hockey team, so you can guess where this is going. We were all told to pass to Katie Moore, defend Katie Moore, Katie, Katie, Katie. Katie wasn't even that good at hockey. My 2 friends and I dominated that field. We were good. But that's not even injustice done to me. No, the injustice came in a little plaque of wood with a fake gold statue of girl with a hockey stick. Player of the Day trophy. God dang, did we all want it. We hungered for that piece of crap. To have it for 1 week and lord it about everyone. Have it beside our bed at night and wake up to be reminded of the day we finally won it. This trophy was steadily handed around to every player in the team. Everyone got to have it once. That's how it went. Except I never got it. Not once. It went around the entire team 2 full times and I never got that freaking Player of the Day trophy. Not even once. I used to leave the games crying because another week had gone by and someone else got to take it home. But never me. Mum spoke to Katie's mum, but I never got it and was later pulled from the team. Man, parent competitiveness is so petty and balls. Well, I was in 7th grade. We were the first class in our city to learn French since 1st grade, so at the end of the school year, the top 3 students would win a trip to Paris for 10 days, all for free. I was the best in the class, so I was sure of my departing. A week before the trip, my teacher came to me and told me that as the best in the class, I don't need to go to France, but instead she gave my spot to a 5th grade student, who turned out to be her nephew, and thus my desire to learn French completely vanished. My entire childhood my mom blamed me for every computer problem we had, saying installing games ruined computers. I defended myself, and I even saw her just blindly open attachments sent to her by names she recognized. A couple years before I moved out, I got my own computer. I replaced it 3 years ago with a new one. Nothing was wrong with it other than it was slow and old. Whereas my mom is probably on her 12th computer that she has run into the ground. My mom is the exact same way. She blamed us for every computer problem, but now that she lives alone, she goes through 1-3 computers each year since no one is fixing them for her. One time in 1999 she blamed the amount of email in my Yahoo account for slowing down the internet. Sorry about that, everyone. My bad. I got detention for spitting on the floor when I was queuing up for lunch at school. I did not spit on the floor. A couple of kids next to me did, and another kid in the line went and got a teacher and told them he had seen me spitting as well as the kids that actually were. It's probably my first encounter with an injustice, and it was extremely frustrating that to the teacher me denying I had actually done anything wrong made me worse than the kids who had, because I was lying and they were at least honest about their wrongdoing. The bit that really got me was in detention I had to write several thousand lines about how I would not spit on the floor in future. It is silly, but it still annoys me now when I think about it. I think it was being forced to write an admission of what I had done that hurt the most rather than actually the time lost through having detention. I kind of understand what it's like to be forced to confess to a crime you did not commit now though, with the benefit of course of the consequences actually being as minor as they could be. I begged my father to buy me the official match ball from the France '98 World Cup. I couldn't wait to be coolest kid in the neighborhood. On the first day playing with my friends, the ball deflected on a wall's surface and went over the fence of a neighbor's backyard. I went politely asked for the ball back. This old man and his wife came up saying it had broken his flowers, and the guy sliced the ball open with a big knife. I was so devastated. I played with it for about an hour. They are now much older and I don't think they recognize me, but one day, I know the universe shall make things right. I had an old guy do practically the same thing to me once. I alternate between feeling righteous and ashamed that I went back to that park as a teenager and tore his goddamned fence off its posts. My brothers and I were cleaning up my grandmother's house. My eldest brother did a special job of carrying a chair into the basement and got $50 for it. My other brother and I got $5 for the whole day. We were not the favorites. In high school we had a student teacher for French class. She used the token system for behavior like it seems every student teacher uses. Anyways, I was heading to class. I was running a little later than normal, but the bell hadn't rang yet. I get to the door and she closes it in my face while talking and looking the opposite direction. I look through the window and give a WTF look to a few kids in the front row. The teacher is talking and I don't want to interrupt, so I wait patiently for her to stop. As I'm waiting, the bell rings. She finally shuts up and I knock. All of this took maybe a minute total. She lets me in and says that I'm late and I'll have to lose some of the fake currency. One of the students in the front row says you slammed the door in his face before the bell rang. She says it doesn't matter, I should have been there before she closed the door. I spent the rest of the class cussing her out in French under my breath. Kids used to bully me every day and I'd ignore them up to the point they got physical. When I would defend myself, teachers coming across the scene would always assume I'd instigated it since I was big for my age and I got a reputation by the teachers as a bully. Whenever I'd talk to the teachers they'd respond with "X wouldn't do that, he's a good boy," or "You expect me to believe that with your track record?" Bummed me out, man. In 5th grade, in a science class, we were learning about gravity and acceleration. The student teacher told people that the mass of an object affected the speed it fell, to which I raised my hand. I was told that the mass of an object doesn't affect its fall speed. The teacher then picks up a shoe and a piece of paper, drops them, and of course, the shoe plops down and the paper flutters down slowly. The class laughed at me and I was sent to the office for speaking up, even though I was right. Frick that student teacher. A equals 9.81 ms2 regardless of mass. What slowed it was air resistance, and it peed me off so much that he was teaching the class lies and I got in trouble for pointing out his face hoods. I was seething. I was in 3rd or 4th grade and got an F on my math test. The teacher was super proud to tell the whole class how all my answers had correct solutions, but I didn't use the methods that she showed us, so that's why she failed me. Frick you, Vanessa. When I was 8 years old, I found a dirty old fish tank in the attic and begged my mom to let me get some fish. She agreed, on the condition that I had to clean the fish tank first. This was no small task, since the thing was absolutely filthy, but I took it out in the yard, with my dad's help, and spent the next couple of hours scrubbing it until it was spotless. Excited, I ran back inside to tell my mom I was finished, and she came out to inspect my work. When we came around the corner of the house, I saw my younger brother running away from my spotless fish tank, laughing maniacally. He'd somehow found a hammer lying around and smashed all the glass in the 3 minutes I'd left it unattended. I never did get another fish tank. Dong. When I was in the 4th grade, Pokemon was the hottest thing at our school. I remember spending entire lunch hours doing nothing but battling kids or trying to sell my cards on our equivalent of the black market. Enter Elliot. Elliot was the class clown dong. He took every joke too far and didn't see any boundaries on what he could do. One fine summer day I was sitting in the back of our homeroom when I was hit by a sudden feeling of sickness. I run up to the front of the class and yak in the garbage can. Teacher proceeds to send me to the office to get some rest, leaving my bag in the back of the classroom. While I was lying in the office, Elliot proceeded to go into my backpack and take my best cards, including Torterra LVLX. I get back to class towards the end of the day, and when I look through my cards, I see that I'm missing quite a few from my rare pages. Elliot is also sporting some pretty new rare cards, most of which are mine. We proceed to get in quite the verbal fight that ends in both of us getting sent to the vice principal's office. There he admits to stealing my cards, and the vice principal proceeds to scold me by telling me we need to learn how to share with each other. I had a teacher once fight with me about whether or not it was could've or could've. She was an English teacher. She was insisting it was could've and had it written on the board and everything. My explanation that it was a contraction and stood for could've did not sway her. Looking back, I think she was trying to save face in front of an entire classroom. It is funny that people will argue to the ends of the earth to save face, when I think it looks a lot better if they just admit they are wrong and move on. I'm sure I could think of something better if I tried, but in grade school I had a teacher that told the class, no English words have two U's in them, in a row. The next day I said, what about vacuum? She then proceeded to say she never said that, essentially calling me a liar in front of the class, even though they all agreed that she said it. I was peed off as frick. When I was 3 or 4 years old, a girl at school poured paint on my head and clothes because she was a bee. I spent the day crying like a baby because, well, I was a baby. And when I finally went home, I was punished for ruining my clothes. I'll never forgive you, Letitia. Was watching TV with my parents, went to grab an apple, washed it, then came back to the living room to eat it. My father told me I should wash it first. Told him I already did. He didn't believe me. A huge argument ensued and ended with me crying alone in my room. My 6th grade teacher gave out 2 different Christmas cards. This was when you were still allowed to do that. The special pets got a big expensive card with a personal note and box of candy. The rest of us got a cheap little card. She was a horrible woman. I'm still convinced she was a sleeper Soviet agent who was really peed off that she was never activated. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.